So here's the deal. Meghan Markle is about to receive an award, but not just any award. It's from the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles, and let me tell you, people are not exactly clapping in support. In fact, some are laughing hard. Because the way it's all playing out feels less like a celebration of real work and more like a very expensive inside joke that Meghan might be the last one to get. And when Jon Stewart, yeah, that Jon Stewart, jumps in and roasts you on national television, it kind of stops being funny. Let's rewind for a second. The Natural History Museum is planning its big Night of Wonder Gala on June 14th. Fancy name, right? Tickets start at $1,500 and go all the way up to $250,000 if you want a full sponsorship table. And guess who's the guest of honor? Meghan Markle. She's being recognized for her so-called advocacy for women and underserved communities. Now, if that sentence made you pause for a second, you're not alone. Because this isn't exactly someone who's out in the trenches doing grassroots work. We're talking about someone who's been more known for Netflix deals, podcast flops, and curated Instagram aesthetics than any long-term social impact. Now, to make things even messier, Meghan had just wrapped what was supposed to be the final episode of her podcast. But surprise, she came back for one more bonus episode featuring none other than Tina Knowles, Beyonce's mom. The episode was packed with high-profile name drops and a lot of vague talk about family, forgiveness, and empowerment. It had that glossy, rehearsed vibe, like it was meant to sell a lifestyle rather than tell a story. That might have worked if the timing wasn't so off.
Okay, for now, focus here for a minute. Don't worry, their drama will keep going on. Think a little about yourself too. An Indonesian scientist has uncovered a shocking truth about belly fat, and it has nothing to do with diet or exercise. 95% of people who tried this strange bedtime ritual lost 25 pounds or more. Some even dropped over 50, all while sleeping. No gym, no starving, just one simple step before bed. It sounds crazy, but it's backed by science. Tap the link in the description and see for yourself.
Because right around that same time, people started side-eyeing this gala honor, and not just online trolls. Journalists, comedians, museum donors, folks you wouldn't expect were all asking the same question. Why is Meghan Markle getting this award? That's when Jon Stewart stepped in, and when he speaks, people listen. On a recent episode of his show, he straight up roasted the whole thing, called it a participation trophy for celebrity activism, said it was like giving someone a standing ovation for showing up. The crowd laughed, social media ate it up. And just like that, this gala turned from a glittering PR opportunity into a meme. Not a great look when you're trying to rebrand yourself as a serious public figure. The core issue here isn't that Meghan's getting recognized, it's that no one really knows what exactly she's being recognized for. The museum claims it's for her work in advocacy and empowerment, but those are buzzwords that don't mean much without receipts. People want to see results. Where's the list of projects? Where's the measurable impact? Where's the change that came from all the talk? Because from where a lot of people are sitting, it feels like the only thing Meghan's really been advocating for is herself. What makes it worse is that this isn't a one-off moment. This fits into a pattern. Meghan and Harry have been racking up awards ever since they left royal life, but many of those honors come from organizations that seem more interested in their celebrity than their contribution. They've been named in most influential lists, picked up humanitarian awards, and appeared at global summits. But if you dig a little deeper, it starts to feel like all smoke and mirrors. Their foundation? Not exactly overflowing with success stories. Their Spotify and Netflix deals? Full of promise, short on delivery. And now, this Natural History Museum Gala, which seems more like a celebrity branding event than anything remotely tied to, natural history. Even inside the museum world, this has raised eyebrows. Some patrons and historians are wondering what happened to celebrating scientific achievement or educational outreach. Why are institutions that once prided themselves on intellectual rigor now chasing Instagram clout? There's a growing frustration that places like the Natural History Museum are selling out, trading credibility for celebrity just to get a few Hollywood types in the room and hopefully a fat donation or two. But that's not even the end of it. The backlash is also coming from regular people, not just insiders. Social media is flooded with comments tearing apart the whole event. The price of the tickets, the shallow speech they expect from Meghan, the fact that this award ceremony feels completely disconnected from reality. It's all getting called out, and not just by trolls or tabloids. Actual museum supporters and cultural commentators are publicly questioning whether this is what institutions should be doing in 2025. Meanwhile, Meghan's team? Total silence. No statements, no clarifications, no defense of the award's merit. That silence says more than any press release ever could. It hints that maybe even they know this isn't going the way they planned. Maybe they were hoping for applause, but all they're getting is awkward laughter and raised eyebrows. And let's be honest, this isn't about one night or one museum. It's about Meghan's entire post-royal strategy. The speeches, the brand deals, the staged podcasts. They all feel like they're trying to manufacture a legacy that hasn't really happened. She's skipping the work and aiming straight for the spotlight, hoping the public won't notice the gap between the image and the substance. But they do. And Jon Stewart's roast just confirmed what many were already whispering. The empire of image is starting to crack. Jon Stewart wasn't the only one throwing punches. Once his roast started circulating, it opened the floodgates. Podcasts, panel shows, Twitter threads, everyone jumped in. Even some late-night hosts who usually steer clear of royal drama took aim. The joke practically wrote itself. A museum about dinosaurs and natural wonders was handing out awards to a woman known more for brand partnerships than scientific contributions. Some users even mocked the gala's name, calling it the Night of Blunder. It wasn't just snark for the sake of it. It reflected something deeper. People are getting tired of celebrity activism being treated like real work. Meghan's PR image has always walked a thin line between inspiration and illusion. On paper, she's done it all. Actress, duchess, podcast host, philanthropist. But when you look closer, a lot of those roles seem unfinished. Her children's book came and went without much noise. Her Spotify deal was quietly terminated. Her Netflix projects barely made waves. The Archwell Foundation? Most headlines about it are either about its inactivity or vague promises of future impact. So when you strip away the titles and the press releases, what are you left with? A lot of ambition, sure, but not a lot of follow-through. And this gala was supposed to fix that. A fresh stage, a chance to reset the narrative, reintroduce Meghan as a woman of action. But it's hard to sell that story when the only thing people can agree on is the size of the ticket prices. $1,500, 0 cents for one seat, $250,000, 0 cents for a table. For what? A speech packed with buzzwords and a meal you'll forget the next day? It feels more like a networking party for the rich than a celebration of community work. And that disconnect is exactly what's frustrating people. Meanwhile, the museum's own reputation is starting to take hits. The backlash isn't just about Meghan anymore. It's about the museum choosing celebrity over substance. When a scientific institution shifts focus from discovery to star power, people start to wonder if its values are up for sale. Longtime patrons and even some staffers reportedly feel blindsided. They didn't sign up to be part of a Hollywood press cycle. They wanted to support education, conservation, and science, not host red carpets for lifestyle influencers. And let's talk about that speech Meghan's expected to give. If her past public speaking is anything to go by, we're in for a heavy dose of inspirational phrases with not much underneath. Words like equity, narrative, and healing will get tossed around, but without a clear message or actionable point. It's the kind of speech that sounds important in the moment, but leaves you wondering what it actually meant. That works for some audiences, but not for people who paid thousands to be inspired. In the days leading up to the event, Meghan's team stayed quiet. No press tours, no sit-down interviews, just carefully worded posts on social media and the usual curated photos. Maybe they were trying to avoid feeding the frenzy, or maybe they didn't have a good answer for why this event was happening in the first place. Silence can sometimes speak louder than a full-blown PR campaign, and in this case, it said a lot. Then there's the podcast The Bonus Episode with Tina Knowles. It was clearly meant to tie everything together, a conversation about family, resilience, and building something of your own. On the surface, it had all the right ingredients: Beyoncé's mom, legacy talk, heartfelt moments. But the delivery felt off. Listeners picked up on how scripted it sounded, how much of it revolved around name-dropping and vague feel-good sentiment. Instead of offering clarity, it added more noise to the confusion surrounding the gala. That episode made one thing very clear. Meghan is trying hard to stay culturally relevant. She's banking on familiar names and big emotions to keep her image alive. But relevance doesn't last long if it's not backed by something real. You can't keep showing up to accept praise for work people can't see. Eventually, they stop clapping, or worse, they start laughing. And once that shift happens, it's hard to come back from it. Critics argue that the gala, much like Meghan's recent ventures, is a mirror of the larger problem with modern celebrity culture. Awards are no longer always about merit. Sometimes they're about optics. Institutions are quick to hand out honors if it means a spike in media coverage or a chance to attract wealthy donors. Meghan, with her global fame and headline power, fits that mold perfectly, but that's a risky game, because when the public starts calling out the difference between real recognition and reputational fluff, everyone involved takes a hit. The Natural History Museum, in its attempt to draw attention, may have accidentally exposed itself to ridicule. And Meghan, who likely hoped this would be a redemptive moment, now finds herself in the middle of another PR mess. The conversation has shifted from celebration to skepticism. Instead of solidifying her status, the gala has reopened the debate about what, if anything, her post-royal life has truly accomplished. Meghan Markle's reputation wasn't always like this. There was a time when stepping away from the royal family looked like a bold move, a fresh start, a chance to carve out an independent legacy. People were curious, even hopeful. But over the years, that curiosity has curdled into confusion. The story she's tried to tell of a modern woman fighting the system, championing causes, making an impact, keeps running into the same problem. Very few receipts and a whole lot of packaging. This gala mess has just made that contrast louder. Because when you strip away the glam, what remains is a question that's becoming harder to ignore. What exactly does Meghan do? And more importantly, why do people keep giving her awards for it? That's not meant to be cruel. It's the same kind of scrutiny any public figure would face. If someone is being held up as a voice of empowerment, the public wants to see the proof, not inspirational slogans, not carefully cropped Instagram posts, not Spotify deals that quietly vanish after one season. Real results. People aren't being petty, they're being honest. They've watched a pattern unfold. Meghan enters a space with grand announcements, promising change, shaking up the narrative. Then the follow-through falls short, the Netflix projects lose steam, the podcast stops, the foundation goes quiet, and yet the accolades keep coming. That's where the disconnect begins. It's not the ambition that bothers people, it's the absence of execution. You can't just keep pressing refresh on your public image without doing the work behind the scenes. Eventually, people notice. The gala could have been a chance to shift that narrative, but instead, it made it worse. People are saying the quiet part out loud now, that this feels like a vanity award, that the museum needed a headline and Meghan needed a win, a transactional moment dressed up as a milestone. And it's not just random tweets saying this, it's museum members, cultural commentators, even donors. When an institution that's supposed to be about history and science starts acting like a PR firm, people feel betrayed. And it cheapens the mission, and it makes everyone involved look desperate for attention. For Meghan, it's yet another reminder that image can't carry you forever. At some point, substance has to take the wheel. Her story still has potential. It always did. But that potential is being buried under a growing pile of missteps and missed opportunities. The royal exit wasn't the mistake. The mistake is what's come after, trying to build a legacy through brand deals and press releases instead of actual impact. The public doesn't hate Meghan. What they're tired of is the disconnect between what she says and what she shows. You can't keep getting praised for championing equity while being the face of luxury podcast studios and $1,500 0 cents a plate galas. That kind of contrast wears thin, especially in a time when people are more skeptical than ever of performative activism. They want results, not rehearsed speeches, and definitely not speeches that feel more like resume padding than real reflection. What's next for Meghan is unclear. Her inner circle is likely reevaluating the fallout from this event. They'll probably try to spin it. Maybe there'll be a heartfelt essay or an op-ed in some glossy magazine. Maybe a surprise appearance at a more grassroots initiative. Something to reset the optics, show a different side. But the thing about credibility is, once it starts to slip, you can't win it back with another rebrand. You have to earn it, slowly, quietly, consistently, with actual work. There's also the larger issue of the institutions that keep feeding this cycle. Museums, award shows, nonprofits, they're all racing to stay relevant. And sometimes that means booking a celebrity instead of a scientist, giving a platform to star power instead of substance. But that's a dangerous trade, because once credibility is gone, it's hard to get back. And no amount of clicks or coverage can replace the trust that's lost when people feel manipulated. If Meghan really wants to shift the narrative, the path forward is simple. Even if it's not easy, step away from the spotlight. Pick one cause, work on it, commit. Not for 6 months, not for one podcast season, long term. Don't just talk about impact, create it quietly, and then let the results speak for themselves. That's how real leaders do it. That's how legacies are built. Right now, what people see is someone chasing platforms, not purpose. Accepting praise without earning it, and leaning too hard on the idea of being a symbol instead of doing the work a symbol is supposed to stand for. Meghan's not the first to fall into that trap, and she won't be the last. But whether she stays stuck in it or breaks out depends entirely on what she does next. Because the truth is, it's not too late. The criticism is loud, yes, but buried inside it is something valuable. People want to believe. They want her to succeed. They just need to see a version of her that shows up not dressed for the camera, but ready to get things done. That's the Meghan Markle people hoped for when she stepped out of the palace and into the real world. And that's the version the world is still waiting to meet.